Hey guys, yep, we have another review here for Metamorphosed to Malleability, the 238th shift, or chapter, if you will. And I told you basically that the calm before the storm was basically currently going on for the past couple of chapters and shifts, and now the brewing of the storm, the making of it, is coming to pass, if you will. Because things just got a lot more interesting than I think any of us could imagine. I mean, first of all, they do kind of continue on with Crystal wearing Briella as a fursuit, basically, and not Fiella, but Briella, adding some modifications to it, basically changing up the feet a little bit to look more, more alien, more, digi-rad or digi-bra, whatever it was called, huffing out a little bit of, certain areas here and there. Basically continuing off the fact that we are going to get a convention story soon. But before then, things just got a little bit more interesting, because just as Crystal is considering, thanks to Briella, basically being the fursuit, creating two little miniature versions of herself as a angel and devil on the shoulder kind of thing. One saying to lie and call in sick. The other one says lie and call in and say you have not lie, but be honest and say you just need a personal day, to her job, that being Crystal's job. But as they're playing around with her like this, all of a sudden they get a knock on the door, and a mysterious hooded figure is there. So Crystal opens it, and this mysterious figure mysteriously kind of knocks her unconscious. Basically, he does the Vulcan nerve grip, basically knocks her out. Well, that's the way I could describe it. Briella, of course, is not too thrilled with this, but the person that's there, the hooded figure, says, "Do not worry, your friend, your fiance, is in no real danger, but she would be in more danger if she was awake." What he means by that, who knows? But he or it, whatever, because obviously it's, according to somebody in the comment section, kind of asexual, bisexual, non-binary, if you will. Basically, this person calls themselves Jean and acknowledges that they do have a past with Duncan of Siri Genesis, basically the people that Briella's been working with. And he basically says that his past identity was erased thanks to a combined effort between Duncan, Siri Genesis, and himself. This person, this Gene person, as they call themselves, because they even tell Briella, "Hey, you call me Gene for the matter of this, for the matter of this conversation or whatever." And they even acknowledge that they gathered a lot of information, not just, from Briella herself, but from her friend Alarie, if you will, Crystal, of course, Duncan, and several others that she's encountered. But there was one name that was left out, and that was Victor, and that makes me still suspicious about something. Victor, of course, is Alarie's boyfriend, fiance, and again, that makes me suspicious about something. Anyway, he tells her, "Look, I just want to talk." Briella, of course, is not happy with what he did to Crystal, but, noticing that, he could do more harm than anything, and he's choosing not to, she decides to hear him out. Now, what's interesting is he does reveal the fact that, like Briella, he is an Omega. Basically, an Omega in the story is a very powerful being with abilities that basically seem to be unbreakable, if you will. In other words, so powerful that, as he puts it in part of the conversation, when he arrives arrives at Briella's house, he says in the conversation, before they sit down and talk, he tells Briella, so what should we do here? Should we fight each other like the monster series Genesis fears we are, or should we just talk as civilized beings? And sorry about that for a second, just had to move around. Somebody came around the corner. But anyway, he brings that up. So it really makes you wonder about Suri Genesis too, about maybe the fact that Duncan, as Alania fears, might be hiding more than what they're letting on. So Briella's like, okay, fine, give me control of Crystal, because Crystal, she's still kind of in his control, basically, because he used some kind of power to knock her out. He says, fine, no problem. Gives Crystal back, or gives Briella back gives Briella control of, not Crystal, but gives Briella, easy for me to say, I'm trying to do this before I clock in, guys, this review. But basically he gives, and of course I'm doing it out in public, so, I want to make sure people are not looking around going like, what's wrong with that person, Anyway, to get back to the review, he gives control of Crystal back to Briella, and Briella basically takes control of Crystal's body almost like a marionette or a puppet, and materializes her face over Crystal's so that they can have this conversation. And that's it. That's where we end 238. It's not as long as the other ones were, but it's just enough to kind of give you an idea that things just got a lot more interesting, and the brewing of that storm I told you that was coming is starting to manifest. And the introduction of this other Omega, whether it's a one-off character or a reoccurring character that shows up on and off, it's going to be interesting to see what role they play, or what the conversation they're going to have with Briella in the next chapter and shift. But again, I got to give it to DezzieArts. That's DEZZIE Arts. Michelle, I got to give it to her. She did it again. She gave us another interesting chapter. Fun at the beginning, but then surprised us with this sudden twist of, is this other Omega? Why are they suddenly showing up? How are they connected to all this? It really makes you want to find out more, not only about this new character, but find out what secrets, along with Briella, potentially that Suri Genesis, Duncan, and his crew are hiding, like Elania, her friend, fears that they are. It's really got me hyped to see what happens next. It really does. Now, I do believe we'll get another break. Like, this is just basically like an interlude. Like I say, this is kind of like an interlude, prelude, brewing of the storm to come. And I think afterwards we will get the convention vacation arc happening, possibly. It's just my opinion, I could be wrong, but we might get that happening soon. And then afterwards, that's when things, I believe, will really pick up. Because, again, this is the 238th shift chapter, if you will, of the series. And, to me, again, it's not as long as the other ones, but it is interesting. It is intriguing to read about, because now, all of a sudden, you have this new addition, this new challenger, if you will, coming into the picture, but obviously acknowledging that, hey, just like you, Briella, I'm an Omega too, and, there are things I could do that may be a lot more powerful than you're capable of, and everything. Because he even says in the story to Briella that, there are things he could do to Briella's fiance and her best friend, her childhood friend, even before Briella could consider stopping him. Like, he could just, like, say a word or snap a finger or whatever, and something would happen. So, again, really interesting twist to the story here. And again, cannot wait to see where this goes with their conversation. Because, again, it definitely feels like, Briella's going to now be more suspicious, not just after what her childhood friend Elania told her, when it comes to Duncan and his group, but now she's going to be even more curious as to what other secrets are they hiding from her, and what is the true purpose of them always probably calling upon her to do these missions and not just let her live in peace. It's going to really make you curious to all of that, and wonder, okay, what's next? And I would not be surprised if Duncan does pop up in the next, not the next chapter, but the chapter afterwards, the 240th one. The 239th one mostly might be the conversation, and then maybe Briella relaying it to Crystal and Elania, maybe after getting the okay from this Jean person to confidentially tell them. I have a feeling Duncan is going to show up at the end of 239 and fully in 240, and I've got a feeling that between 240 and 250, we are going to, like I said, we are going to get the convention arc. There's no doubt, the furry convention arc, there's no doubt about that. But we're also going to get some revelations, and we're going to have the storm kind of culminating from essentially 41 up to about, well, I wouldn't say 41, I would say 41, I would put it this way, I would say 42 to maybe 45 or 46 will be the convention arc. It won't be a long one. This is just my speculation, my opinion. I don't think it'll be a long one, but between 42 and 45, I think we're going to get the convention arc, and then 46 and 48 is when we're going to get the storm. Maybe. I'm not really saying that's true or anything, but to introduce this new intriguing part to the story, yeah, I've got a feeling business is going to pick up, in the very near future. I still believe that we're going to get the wedding in 250 around Valentine's Day and everything, and I still believe this is going to result in Crystal getting powers of her own, very similar powers to Briella. I just got that feeling. And knowing how, Michelle has written the story and everything over time, that's going to lead to a very NFS erotic, very elastic, shape-shifting, gooey, tendrling, if you will, moment between the two when we get to there. But that's if Crystal gets the powers, and I think she does. She gets her own powers very similar to Breeze. But again, this here makes things a lot more interesting now, because now, again, it makes not Elania, but Briella more suspicious about these people she's been helping. And I've got a feeling what's going to be the result is, and again, I could be wrong, but the speculation I'm getting is when Duncan does come into the picture after probably finding out, hey, this Jean person came and paid Briella a visit and everything, I've got a feeling what's going to happen is Briella is going to confront him, and he's going to have to tell the truth. And I got a feeling part of that truth is what they're really trying to do is try to basically wear Briella down to where they can extract the power from her. I know that sounds like that's against everything that it, potentially could lead towards, in the end with her and Crystal, and that's true. That is true. But honestly, I would not be surprised if that might be something storyline-wise that Michelle has Duncan reveal to Briella, that the reason, we always call upon you, the reason we do this is because basically we want to find a way to figure out how to cure you of this ability, because you're not supposed to have it, or you were never meant to have it, and everything. And again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen or anything. But it's an idea. It's a possibility. But like I said, though, this does put Duncan and his crew in a bigger spotlight of suspicion, when it comes to Briella. Because now she's going to wonder, okay, what other secrets, like I mentioned earlier, are they hiding from her? But overall, again, it's not that long. It was fun at the beginning, continuing off the last story, but really twisted and went in a direction that, I don't think any of us, expected them, to go in, at all. But it's an interesting one, because it sounds like what this Jean character wants to do is just let Briella know maybe, what she's in store for. And that there's a good possibility that if she doesn't, I guess you could say protect those that she loves and I guess follow, orders or whatever. Basically, I got a feeling he's going to let her know that she could potentially, she could potentially end up like him, to where, he had to go with that. Basically, he had to, as he mentioned in the story, he had to get his memories and identity erased with the help of Duncan and himself and Siri Genesis for the protection of those around him. So I've got a feeling he's going to basically be there to give more exposition as to what she's, what she is, what she's capable of, and everything. Probably divulge a little bit more on things that even Duncan won't tell her about, and she's eventually going to question Duncan about herself. I've got a feeling he's going to do that, as well as even give her a warning that if she's not careful, she's probably going to end up like him, where basically she has to erase herself from existence. Not physically, but just erase her identity from existence to protect those that she cares about. But we'll see what they do. Overall, though, like I said, I like I like this little surprise here. I like this sudden twist. It does open more doors, but it also basically, ladies and gentlemen, puts more suspicion on the fact that Alanier's fiance could be involved in this, because again, you don't see his name being mentioned by Jean, whatsoever, when he's talking to Briella. So that could be the X factor right there. Now, whether or not this Jean is friend or foe, it seems more like they could just be an ally, maybe for her, someone that's going to let her in on secrets that Duncan won't tell her. So it doesn't look like they mean any harm now, but it's ironic that they show up almost after the whole situation where you had part of Briella become sentient as Mimi. So it makes you really curious if they saw this Mimi do what they did and were like, I got to go talk to this girl because I don't want her to go potentially through what I've gone through. So we'll see. We'll see what the conversation leads to. We'll see next week how Jean came to find her, what he knows about her, what he's going to let her in on, and maybe what warnings he could give her. But again, overall, not that long of a story or a chapter or a shift, but just long enough to give us this little surprise at the end, and can't wait to see what's in store next week. Again, I still think, because his name wasn't mentioned, that Victor Alanier's fiance, plays, some kind of major role in the fact that Detweiler's crew was able to get access to Crystal, and use her as a hostage, to get Briella to do what the doctor wanted. So I've got a feeling that's going to be something we'll find out real soon, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, I still believe that in between, this conversation and what happens in the 240th chapters and shifts, 40 to 49, we're going to get the convention vacation, and then we're going to get basically maybe some kind of conclusion to the whole ordeal, with Siri Genesis, Duncan, Briella, and all of them, and maybe the revelation of Victor being, involved in this because he aligned himself with the doctor. I don't know, but I also think it's going to be resulting not just in a 250th shift in chapter being the wedding around Valentine's Day next year, but also I think Crystal's going to get the powers as well. I really do, and that's going to lead us to, like I said, a very erotic NFSW chapter shift, if you will, between her and Briella, because both of them will have the power. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what Michelle has in store. But I just wanted to come on here, guys, before I start work. I got about 14 minutes left before I clock in. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Comment if you like. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chat, super stickers are open in the live chat during the premiere, as described in the description box, as well as super thanks afterwards. Also support me at Venmo at Brian-Roman-2, Cash App at BWRoses98. Also at Patreon.com/BWRoses, $1, $3 tier. You could also check me out at my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else, as well as you could check me out at DeviantArt.com/BVW 1979 and everything. Also, you can check me out at BW Roses Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora, at VENMO at BW Roses for content you can't get here on YouTube. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Again, check out the series, and until next time, I'm out.